new hourly schedule would be 7 to 2:45 every day, and there would be no day at which I stayed from 2:30 to 3 o'clock.
If that's what we determine, yes.
Okay, because again, I think the intent on the extra half an hour was also to have dedicated time to do specific things. And I'm not gonna belittle 9 minutes, but I have teachers who tell me they're getting, they're 40 minutes continuous, they get 30 minutes for lunch, and then they get 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes after the kids leave. From a practical planning point of view, those 10 minutes are probably useless. Because by the time you get to your room, you do this, you do that, or by the time the kids leave, what can you really sit down and do in those 10 minutes? And that's where I think some of the stuff is as well, is that those short blocks of time, though contractually compliant, are essentially meaningless for real work to get done, because 10 minutes is nothing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, you may go to the bathroom and that's it, or you may grade one paper, or make one phone call, or make half a phone call, or answer like 2 emails, but contractually, everything's compliant. So I think that's also part of it when you say 9 minutes, is that 9 minutes isn't necessarily, it's good, it's time, it's wonderful, all time is good. But when we look at the idea of it being something in which something can be accomplished, that 9 minutes may not be enough. And so that's kind of what I'm hearing this year around the Safe Start initiative and the increased instructional minutes, is that it's throwing them into 10 minutes, 40 minutes, 10 minutes. And what can you do at 10 minutes at 7 o'clock in the morning when the kids are beating down your door and you're just, trying to get settled for what is 30 kids coming in the door in 10 minutes. So there's really no planning. That's more prep for the onslaught than it is planning.
So it sounds like you would be advocating, instead of just making a 7-hour and 45-minute day, you would add like another 30 minutes, one day a week.
I don't know.
Okay.
But we'd have to have,
you're saying that could be an option.
we'd have to have very clear, and again, we've kind of drifted on the extra 30 minutes about what it's used for now again. We're drifting, because I will tell you, administrators are getting incredibly creative around the problems, the unintended problems that came from the Safe Start initiative. They're getting very creative. And so I don't blame them, because they have pressure put on by their bosses. So they're trying to solve a problem, but it's really causing a lot of creativity. So I think we really need to have enforceable parameters, just like an MTSS meeting can't happen during your planning, and it is an administratively mandated meeting. We need to have those ideas around this if we're going to relook at this. Because again, the idea of having that unique time together to accomplish things as a group is wonderful. You don't get it. I mean, some of the best time I get is when a meeting ends early. It's like free time. I'm able to do stuff. So I think if we're going to talk about it, we really need to talk about it. But I think we also need to, in the back of our heads, go, okay, is this something we're rushing for this year? Because I know Mr. Burnside always talks about like not thinking it through, right? And so I really don't want to get in an unintended consequence situation by saying 9 minutes a day or whatever. But again, it's all kind of up for what it is. But that 9 minutes is 9 minutes on paper, but what can really be accomplished in 9 minutes when you've got 25 or 30 third graders staring down the hall in about 2 minutes?
All right, I don't know whose hand is up first, Anna or Jill? Jill?
Chase, take it. Cadence.
I also want to say that, with, piggybacking on what Kevin said, yes, and every minute to a teacher that they have for themselves is valuable, right? And it goes like a New York minute. That time just flies by. It's not the same minute as when you're doing a plank or something like that. So it's that time just goes, right? But when we talk about removing that 30 minutes, and like Kevin said, there's unintended consequences. So from thinking of a school building, and I will speak to what I believe the majority of our schools do. The majority of those schools use that time for PLC. If we take that 30 minutes and we divide it up, and then we add 9 minutes to make each day an extra 15 minutes, we can't PLC in 15 minutes. I mean, There's very little we can do in 15 minutes. I mean, sometimes even making a phone call takes, a parent call takes longer than that, every educator at this table knows that, 15 minutes flies by. So then where does that PLC go? Because, and everyone has opinions about PLC, but I will say this, there's value in meeting with your colleagues who teach the same subject and discussing what you're teaching, and it is so important for support even, just so that you can talk about what you're doing, you can share lessons. If your kids bomb a test, you've got support for people to say, hey man, if it's a hard area, here's some things you can do to go back and reteach. Those minutes are important. Like I said, there's a jury out of opinions on that. So where does that go? Now that goes to our planning time during the day. That has really been squeezed and crunched. So we have to be really cautious, and I'm not against adding 9 minutes, I don't want you to think that, but I think we have to be really cautious when we just say, well, we can just change that 30 minutes, because what happens to that time, that PLC time, and we've been doing PLCs, I wanna say since like 2012, something that has come from the district, we've spent time and training that we've held as this precious thing that teachers should do, this valuable time that we need to work together. If we just say, well, we're just gonna pull that 30 minutes out of the contract, that's even less time. Because that 15 minutes, if it goes to 15 minutes, maybe you get 15 minutes before contract or maybe after, but if it's 15 minutes before contract, you got kids coming in, it's hustle and bustle, kids coming down the hall, grab and go, you end up losing that 15 minutes, and if it's 15 minutes at the end of the day, well, we all know what dismissal looks like, right? It's chaos coordination. So that time is just gonna get lost in the hustle and bustle of what it means to be a public school teacher. So we have to be really cautious about being so cavalier about taking that 30 minutes away. And I'm not saying you're being cavalier, but we have to really be mindful about what happens if that time goes.
Anna?
So I just want to piggyback on kind of both of those things, but looking at the current contract language for 701(1)(c) planning, the current contract language talks about 60 minutes per day, or at least 40 continuous minutes. And so I'm curious on when we are talking about an additional 9 minutes. I know we've talked about the different ways that it could be broken up. On what those minutes, what that would look like changing to in the contract, because one of the things when we do talk about unintended consequences, I would really, really hate for administrators and for the staff to have to change any kind of a master schedule. I would really hate for that. And then I also see the language that's in this planning time says that this time shall be used for lesson preparation and for meeting other job description responsibilities. And we all know those other job description responsibilities can look like anything and everything someone above you asked you to do, including dismissal, or, there's been a lot of changes that our district has had to adjust to with this state Safe Start initiative. Some of them great, some of them not so great. And I just really, if this was anything that we were going to truly consider, we need to have a well thought out plan, because I would not be pleased with those 9 minutes then going to other job description responsibilities, as some people can look at contract language as a gray area.
Alright, so currently we work 38 hours a week, according to contract. So, it is 7.5 hours a day, and then an additional 30 minutes per week. So in this proposal, you were looking at going to 38 hours and 45 minutes? Right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, okay, that was my first question.
He's nodding his head, he doesn't
Okay.
have a mic, I don't
Okay,
think.
well, I'm legally blind, so I can't see that far, I can only see to about just past the top. So thank you for nodding your head. So I know everyone talked about remiss about changing schedules and those types of things. I'm remiss to adding even 1 minute to the schedule right now, because when we talked about increasing student time, which we all agreed was, okay, yes, students need to be there, we voiced concerns about safety and security, and planning time, and all those things. And sorry, I've been sick, so I apologize, like, I'm breathing here. I had COVID all last week. The district said they could do it. At calendar committee, we heard that we can increase time, it'll give student time. They told us all these things we can do, and I'm sorry, I feel like now bringing it in for this year, I feel like we need to stick with the district said they could do it, so let's do it and let's go from there. Thanks.
So I can present another option that says we would add an additional 30 minutes, another day for 30 minutes for additional planning to that. Now that would only put us at 7 hours and 42 minutes per day on average, which I know presents some other problems, but that additional time would be spent then for an additional day of planning specifically.
Kevin.
So, while that sounds, so what I'm envisioning that to be is 2 8-hour days and 3 7.5-hour days, right? Again, I'm leaning more towards, oh, me?
He didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I don't listen.
He was doing a little sidebar.
That's how I got where I was. Oh, no sidebars. So, the extra half an hour thing would be 2 8-hour days and 3 7.5-hour days, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so even though that wouldn't seem to muck with, I used a good word there, muck with master schedules, it has the potential in the middle of the year to muck with lives, right? You look at middle schools and the other schools that are on that top tier, like Royal Palm now, it gets out at 4:30. Now it's another day getting out at 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? That we have people who need time to plan what we may see as a small change, but they may see as an enormous change. So, I mean, I Uber on the weekends, so I don't really have a second job to worry about during the week, but I'm sure many teachers have second jobs. They have childcare responsibilities, they have, adult care responsibilities, they may just wanna go somewhere by themselves for a half an hour. So I think for me, even though we're nodding to the master schedule and adding another half an hour a day, I don't know about the mucking around with lives, especially those schools that get out late now, where really the jury is still out as to whether or not the dismissal procedure across the district is going as cleanly as some people have voiced. So, I mean, we had one school yesterday where the staff was required to stay till 5:15 because there was lightning. And so, like, that's a long time. And so, that takes me back to the testing thing, right? Inclement weather in August in Florida is not an emergency. I've been in Florida my whole life, 3 o'clock every summer, it rains and lightnings. So, it is what it is. So again, I think when we look at that, I think that we also need to address the mucking with people's lives, because we talk about what's good for kids and what's good for student achievement, and all that is wonderful and all that needs a place at the table. But the bottom line is if staff isn't happy and staff isn't healthy and staff isn't, where they need to be, none of that happens, because student achievement is impacted by one thing and one thing only generally, and that's a highly effective teacher in the classroom. So again, and this is something where I say, well, okay, do we want to do that? Well, then let's start that in the next school year. We know how much it's going to cost. Let's start it next school year. Again, where people have plenty of time, because we say all the time about meetings, right? They should be on the calendar. So you shouldn't be calling me saying, oh my God, my principal called a meeting for next week and I got daycare issues. That meeting should be on the calendar. So you should know months in advance if you have to have a meeting after school, so that you're able to do what you need to do to kind of attend the meeting as a professional. So I don't want the personal lives of the employees to kind of be sacrificed on the altar of the master schedule of the school.
So are you adding another option saying to start this additional 9 minutes in the 26-27 school year?
I'm not adding anything currently, I have run my mouth a whole bunch.
Okay,
So I'm not currently adding anything, I'm adding to the conversation.
okay.
We'll let Anna go and then Jill wants to caucus for 10 minutes. And we promised 10 minutes. We got a taskmaster.
So I also want to just remind you that there is also language in Article 7.0123, which is arrival, that states each building principal shall determine the arrival and leaving time of teachers assigned to each school. So that is just something we need to consider as well. Is that, you know, where, if we said it was gonna be 30 minutes, you know, just the different options as we're working through with it. This, principals ultimately have the authority to determine the contract hours for their additional school site. I know, for example, some elementary schools right now, I have to be at work at 8, some of them are 8:05, some of them are 8:10, 8:15, because the individual needs of their schools are different depending upon their location, and the kind of setup of their school. So just something to consider, that where we may think something here at the table, there is that piece of contract language as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, 10-minute caucus, called for.